Hello, Deborahs. Hello, Deborahs. Good evening. Uh-oh, I think Sharia may be frozen. Well, hello, everyone. So I'm going to say hello and get everybody on here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You are live with your girls from Love Me More. I am Melissa Baez. I am the founder of Love Me More, and you are tuning into Between Girlfriends Book Club, where we have been studying the Deborah anointing. So you already know, once you get in, we're always like, come on, like, share, tag your best girlfriend. I'm actually about to get on right now. You see, I'm by myself right now. I'm waiting for, it looks like we're having a little bit of technical difficulties with Sharia. She was on here already. But I do want to excuse two of our lovely ladies who will not be on tonight. Ashley, we announced a couple weeks ago, she's been through a very big transition. She was moving from North Carolina to Tennessee, and this was a true faith move. I just always have to say, this was a true faith move. Excuse me. So she's not going to be with us tonight. We did talk a little earlier, and she's still settling and getting her bearings and all that good stuff during this move. Kavina, we will not be seeing her tonight either, because, well, duty calls, and she had work this evening. So we are hoping that she'll be able to join us, at least in the audience with everyone else. So if you're just tuning in, say hey, like, tag, share, say whatever. We're always calling people out on here. I get on myself, and I'm actually about to tag a couple of my girlfriends in here so they don't miss out. Let's see here. We have been, I just want to give a quick recap on what it is that we've been doing. And this is the book that we've been studying. It's the Deborah Anointing. This is by Michelle McLean Walters. This book really is a call. It is a call to women to take their positions in leadership. This was something that we really wanted to do because we have, and we're still, there's something that we're still battling against. But we're living in a day and age where women's voices have been mute, or maybe we're not taken as seriously, whatever it may be. There are people who do not accept women in positions, even though, that's just not, it's still not a standard in certain places. And we live in a place where it really is not. But this is to empower, to encourage, to motivate, to inspire women, and just call upon that voice or that thing that's been on the inside of them that has been laying dormant. We are your yay sayers. This is what I say. I'm like, other people may say nay or no, that's not you. We're like, yes, that's you. We are here to affirm what's on the inside of you. We're here to stand in agreement. And if you don't know what it is, we're here to call it out, because that's what we do. As girlfriends, we should be sharpening each other and, standing by each other and encouraging each other. So that's what this is about. And these past couple weeks, we are on part number 4. You can catch the replays either here on Facebook. You can scroll down and see the other videos, or you can get it on our YouTube. Okay, our YouTube channel. So we are getting started with chapter 3 today, which is Deborah the Mother. And I did have a lot to say about this. There was things that I read on here that I did have a lot to say. I was trying to wait and see if Sharia is getting back in. I saw that she was having some technical difficulties because we were both doing this tonight. So if you guys just bear with us a quick second, and see if we can get her on. See if we can get her on here without missing out on so much time. And actually, I'm going to tell Vernay, she's in the background. She's the one who puts all this stuff together for us, Vernay Jackson. She is our tech person, and this is actually her business. She does this business-wise. So I'm just gonna let her know as soon as she gets in, just drop her on into the live. All right, as soon as she gets on in. But if you're just tuning in, we are on chapter 3, Deborah the Mother, where we are discussing in the book the Deborah anointing. So in here, there was I wanted to talk about because there's different areas that she touches on in this book. Um, where it talks about, obviously we're talking about modern day Deborahs, okay? And she says, many times as a modern day Deborah, excuse me, I receive burdens to pray through a news story that awakens my heart of compassion. And I had to outline this because that was something that has been on my heart because I've been seeing, I tune in. I don't know about y'all, but I do tune into the news, and then sometimes I tune off because sometimes it's just too much. But I also want to be in the know. And I know that not all news is accurate news, because we're going by, people telling a story. But I do check everything in prayer. Like that's one of the things, like, and even I think we're just also in a time that no matter what we do see, what we do hear, what is going on, we need to be checking everything in prayer, because there are things that are absolutely going to be silenced that we would not know about unless it was through divine revelation. So one of these things, one thing about Deborah was that she was an intercessor. Okay, so she knew how to intercede for other people, but also in doing this, she was a prophetess and she was able to speak divine strategy. Okay, she was able to speak divine words that came from her maker, our maker, right? So because she was in tune with him. And we're just in a time that if we need to fact check anything, it's going it's going to have to be through prayer, y'all, because not everything, not, like I say, the math ain't mathing, the math ain't mathing. So if we need to fact check something, we need to make sure we're doing that through prayer at this point, okay? But anyway, so when she talks about as a modern day Deborah, as she considers herself, which we all are, she said that she would receive a burden, like she would see something on the news and it would just waken her heart to compassion. And I found myself this week in that. And what I mean is, and there's certain things that I don't like to totally get in on, just because on social media your voice gets silenced, or people will take it out of context, but there's just something that I can't stay quiet about because it has really, really been bothering me. And I've been watching on the news, and I in the news and sports, and I'm not even a sports person, but the news and sports, where there was this woman who got her skull bashed in like within the first 40 seconds of an MMA fight. Now, I don't watch fighting and stuff like that. I don't like that kind of stuff. It kind of riles me up. It gets my blood going, riled up. It's just unnecessary. It's unnecessary for me to be a part of that stuff. So, but what was bothering me was who her opponent was. So there is a lot of buzz. There is a lot of movement. There is a lot of voices speaking up and speaking against what we're seeing in our world when it relates to transgender. And I can't even, I don't even want to put too much word to it because I feel like it's ever changing, and until I can get it down right, I don't want to offend anybody. But what really bothered me was that this biological woman, so she was born a female, um, fought a transgender woman. Now, what was big in the news was that, people are calling, people are rallying up and they're calling for that whole organization within MMA to do something about this because she fought a transgender woman with full male genitalia. So, he has not transitioned over, and within the first 40 seconds, he actually bashed her skull in. And he got paid to do so. He got paid to do so. So, for me, I'm just like, did this really just happen? Did we just see this? Are people cheering? And the transgender woman is like, yeah, you like that? You like that? How about that? And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Now, listen, I'm not trying to say because you're having you're going through your own identity and you're like, this is not who I am, and you want to do, that's on you, right? But I feel like in sports there is a place for everything, and I feel as if when she was talking about it awakens my heart of compassion, that's all I could feel, because I'm like, listen, there needs to be a separation of something. Like, okay, if that's what you want to do, then fight another transgender woman. But the fact that you're not fully woman, biologically, whatever, and I know because this is probably gonna ruffle some feathers, and like I said, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but I'm gonna talk about what on the inside of me brings about compassion, where I'm moved to be like, okay, no, this cannot be, because I can't sit here and watch a woman's skull be bashed in. If I don't even like to watch this stuff anyway. But we're seeing so many things, and when people try to express themselves, it's like, let's hang them. You have the other girl, I think her name was Riley Gaines, who was the swimmer, who shared how she felt uncomfortable sharing a locker room with a transgender woman who had full male genitalia, and she was able to walk around, bare, and she was felt uncomfortable. She's like, what about my rights? What about what I'm comfortable with? What if what I'm willing to accept? And they chased that girl into a room. The police were trying to like cover her, like they were coming for blood. And I'm like, why? Why is it that we can't speak about things, speak our truths? We can't speak about these things that hurt us or make us uncomfortable, and without literally a mob coming after us as women. And I'm like, when I look at things like this, I'm like, there is a full-on attack on women. And I'm sorry, I'm like, there is a full-on launch attack on women. And when you're in a position as myself within Love Me More, we are all about creating a system of support. We are a support system. We're a support system for all women within their family, within community, within the job place, like within the workplace. Like, we're trying to make sure that everybody has support, in the sense of, I got your back. If there's some type of injustice, I'm speaking up. We're doing something about it. We're not just talking about on the phone and being like, oh my God, that's a shame, I'm so sorry this happened. No. We are about action. So when I see things like this, I'm called to action. I'm just like, okay, God, what are we doing? Like, do you see this? It's an all-on attack on women right now. And then, God forbid, we actually want to operate in our essence as women. And there's just, there's a lot. I'm not, as you can see, I am very passionate about this. I'm very passionate about it. But this is the stuff that she's talking about, which is, as a modern day Deborah, I receive burdens to pray through a news story that awakens my heart of compassion. Now, that's something for me. That is something that awakens my heart. What awakens my heart is when I'm seeing all these shootings, when I'm seeing when we just saw this stuff in Tennessee with these kids who were rallying up, and because they don't feel safe being in school, and then you have the people. Oh, Cherie is with us. Yay. Glad get yourself together, girl. I was like, don't have me up here doing this by myself. I was like, Tony, we got to go back and forth. I'm sitting here.
Soon as you clicked on, it said beep.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Cherie is here, guys. Yay. Listen, I only got to when I was talking about what I was talking about earlier, about things that we may see on the news that stirs up our heart into compassion as mothers. And even about this, when it comes to being a mother, women, we do naturally have, we have had this thing on the inside of us, okay, that awakens, and it brings about nurturing, which we are going to talk about in this book, in this chapter this tonight. But I was talking about how we had the Democrat representatives who were expelled because it was 3 of them, because they stood alongside a peaceful protest, who were children, who were saying, we don't want to die when we go to school. We need you guys to protect us. You guys are over here making laws and making bills, and we just want we want some type of protection for ourselves. And they were kicked off because they stood with them. Now they have been put back into place because it was on a broader spectrum. Kamala Harris went out there, and I don't know if y'all heard people. I was like, come on. When I tell you, picking up this book, I'm seeing Deborah's everywhere.
Right. But did you also see when you talking about the 3 gentlemen, right?
Yes.
And then it was also another lady. It was a lady that was on there, but she wasn't kicked off. And they asked her why. And she was a Deborah, and she said, well, if you can look, obviously you can see it was because the color of my skin. Because she was Caucasian.
Wow.
She didn't get kicked off. Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad that she spoke up about that, because, and those are our opportunities. Those are our opportunities. And in that moment, she took it. She was a Deborah, and she took that moment. And it wasn't about her. It was about those who were kicked off. It wasn't about her. And that's what we do. She knew how to speak on behalf of somebody else. And that's what Deborahs do. We intercede. We speak on behalf of others. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I did not know that. But as I asked Bridget Kamala, I was like, come on, girl. But, these are the things, like when we're talking about Deborah being a mother, that's something that's on the inside that just stirs up on the inside of you, like, absolutely not. Like, this is not okay. When it brings us into movement or action, or, in a way where we become protective, in a way, when we see someone, we're looking to help in any kind of way we can. Those are all nurturing vibes. Okay. What we're going to get into. She says in here, and I'm on page 29, but she says, one of the major responsibilities of a modern day Deborah is to bring the heart and mind of God in the earth. And when she made that, like, this statement for me, that tells me it's because there's a serious lack of it. If it's one of our major responsibilities to bring the heart and mind of God in the earth, that means there is a major lack of it. Okay. And we need to figure out, what does that look like for us? Because it's going to be different for everybody, because we all have different spheres of influence. So it's going to be different for everybody. She goes on to talk about abortion. She gave a story about abortion, and I didn't really want to touch on it. But there was something when I was on my drive, because, we on spring break, y'all. And I'm trying to do I'm trying to do the thing with the kids, so, they can do. So, my allergies was kicking my behind, and
you're trying to nurture them.
Yes, exactly. So we ended up going to the zoo today, and I was like, I had this book on replay. I was listening to Audible, because I wanted to make sure, usually I take my time and I like to study, even though I had already studied. And like I said, y'all know I underline, but I wanted to make sure it was fresh in my brain. And when I was driving, and I was just like, I really don't want to touch on that, because it is a touchy subject. And I mean, in the sense is, abortion is just not about, oh, I got pregnant, let me get rid of this child. That's not just the ways of, what's considered abortion in the terms, in the clinical terms. There are things that happen where a baby or fetus is not where it's supposed to be. It could be in the fallopian tubes, and now and that's something I really don't want to touch on that subject in that sense. But when I was driving, I felt the Lord was like, no, touch on it. But that same thing, because, it could be very judgmental. It can be very judgmental. People will take a stance in, the pro-life, and, oh my gosh, and you aborted a child, and they are casting stones, right? They taking you to the cross, they crucifying you, right? But that same thing, like what I heard him speak to me was, what about the things that we abort spiritually? So when he created us, and he attached all these ideas and beautiful gifts and beautiful talents and beautiful birthing like things that we are supposed to be birthing, whatever it may be, initiatives, projects, businesses, whatever it may be. But we abort the mission. And I kept feeling like, do we feel the same way then? Do we feel as strongly as we do when a woman decides to go to a clinic and have an abortion? Do we feel the same way when it's a spiritual abortion, where he has deposited something on the inside of us and we decide to toss it for whatever reason, whether we don't want to do it no more, or maybe we feel that we're incapable, or maybe, God, you didn't really call me to this, or I don't really know how to do this, or I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to go take care of somebody else's baby. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I mean all this.
Right.
I mean all this in the spiritual sense, because, I'm going to tell you right now, anybody tell me about their initiative, I'm on it. I'm like, yes, that's great. And blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm full on. But I also have to recognize that I have a baby.
Right.
I have to take care of my baby. And what time that I have, I can help with your baby. Okay. I was like, so, but what about in the spiritual sense? What about those ideas that we were supposed to birth, but we aborted? Do we feel as strongly as no to abortion? Do we feel as strongly? And
no, because I feel like we always got an opinion about somebody else's life versus our own, right?
Can we be transparent? Thank you. You're absolutely right. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, I'd rather focus on your mess than my mess.
Right.
I don't want to deal with my mess. I don't want to. So in order for me to not deal with my mess, I'm gonna focus on your mess, and I'm gonna point out to you all your little abortions when I'm not even focused on my abortion. Okay, I was like, listen, I know I have aborted ideas.
Mm-hmm.
I know I have set things to the side. I have probably put things up for adoption at this point. Okay, I know I have, and I could sit here. Listen, my greatest excuse, y'all, was my divorce. That was my greatest excuse. I'm like, listen, no, I was going through divorce. Y'all don't even understand that 2.5 years. It wasn't supposed to be that long, and the fight and the when I tell you there were things that I could have, but I kept saying no, because, I have to lay low. I'm trying to get through this. So when I tell you I have excuses, and I hold on tight to them excuses, y'all.
Yeah.
Listen, I hold on tight to those excuses.
But no, going back to what you said, right? So, remember back to when it was COVID, and then we had these properties, right?
Yes.
And during the COVID time, the housing really didn't wasn't really compromised. They was like flourishing, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So it's like, okay, we pray, like, God keep me afloat through this COVID. I don't know, like, what's coming next. Like, nobody knew, right?
Yes.
So then it's like, okay, we see that the housing market, which is our market, is not like going down, it's going up, right? So it's like, okay. Then it's like the idea coming, okay, well, now it's a time where you can try different things, right? Because everybody's home. So why can't you try certain things, right?
Yes.
Then my husband like, yeah, maybe we can do the Airbnb. Like, why not try? We sitting here, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to. No.
That was an abortion moment.
Yeah, like, nah, I don't like the area. No, or just throwing all this negative vibes out, right?
Yes.
And somebody came along and said, yeah, okay, I want to rent this property from you. I'm like, okay, great. He like, yeah, I'm gonna make it an Airbnb. I was like,
they tried to steal. Look, it went from abortion to they tried to steal your baby.
Right. But whose fault is that, right? Mine's, because my fearfulness, me aborting my idea or what God given me. It's like, okay, God, I want to do this. I want to step out my comfort zone. He's saying, okay, well, now's the time. It's COVID. It's time it's time you can experience different things, right? It's time where you can mess up, because everything is shut down. And I'm like, I'm still like, no. And that lit a fire in my behind, right?
Yes.
But I had to take the initiative to like, okay, you know what? God is speaking to me. I can do this. But it was fearful. And I had to remember who is God?
Yes.
Like, why am I fearful? Right? So that was the idea I brought it, but I had to bring it back.
I like that. And you know what? I'm glad you did that, because that's what's, fear.
Mm-hmm.
That is almost probably the main reason. Fear, resources, feeling inadequate are reasons why we abort things.
Yep.
Okay, not just talking about children, I'm not talking about just children. I'm talking about within the spirit, spiritually, when we have seeds that have been planted on the inside of us and ideas, and we abort those things. A lot of times it is out of fear. But how can we not relate to a woman who is having abortion, who feels like she can't be a mother at this time? Maybe she's a college student. Maybe she don't have a support system. Maybe it was a one night stand. Like, if we could just be honest and really talk about certain things that happen in this world, like, no, fear is a very big reason. How am I gonna, I don't know how to be a mom. How can I take care of this baby? And I'm gonna have to do this on my own. Oh my God, my parents will kill me. Like,
Right.
I mean, there's so many things, but that root is fear. How is that not relatable?
Mm-hmm.
How is that not relatable? I was like, so we have done this. We have all, probably, I'm sure all of us have had a fair share of abortions when it comes to spiritual. Okay. So that was the only thing I really wanted to touch on that subject, because I wasn't going to. I was like, it's a touchy subject. I don't really want it. He's like, no. And he's like, but because it's a touchy subject, are we that fierce? Are our beliefs that fierce when it pertains to us aborting something spiritually? Because it should be. Because he don't see no different. Because what we birth is absolutely life-giving. What we do, it is absolutely life-giving. Okay, so I see something that popped up. Exactly, Stacy. Oh, y'all didn't see that comment. Look, see, on the side of it, we got the comments from people, right? And I have to say what Stacy Fountain said. Exactly, girl. Yes. She said, think about all the lives attached to the plan or plans that we abort. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So I'm telling, like, it is life giving. And that thing could be giving life to someone else. Yes. Thank you for that, Stacy. Thank you. So let's see. She actually goes on to say that too. It's funny, like, we are life givers. Yeah, women are life givers. We are not life takers. And so I want to look again. We're going to take it on the side of the spiritual side. That we are life here. We are not life takers. And if what we are failing to birth is taking life from someone, we're gonna be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna be held accountable. There is no buts here. There ain't no buts here. We're gonna be held accountable. Okay. She talks about how the mother anointing includes the ability to teach and train. All right, we have this dynamic way of teaching and training. It doesn't have to just be our own kids. It's whoever is under our influence, whoever we're influencing in life. Okay, whoever is under our influence, right? We have the ability to teach them and to train them. So some of them teachings are going to be from our mistakes, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not all going to be, oh, because I did it this way, you should do it. Like, no, don't do like I did. That's my story. I don't know about y'all.
Yeah, that's my story too.
That's my testimony.
It is. It is.
So, let me see. I want to go because I just want to get different points on here, because she does talk about how mothering is needed in today's community. Let me see. Hold on, because there was this one point I wanted to give. Because she talks about mentorship, right? So I like that, because when she talks about how mothering needs to come back to the community, right? She's not just talking, physically, she's also talking spiritually. And I was just like, I had to circle certain things because, I'm funny about, and I was telling she was laughing at me. I said, no, 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 no. Don't talk about spiritual mothers because I'm funny about that kind of stuff. People will use the term spiritual mothers. I like to say things like mentor. That's more my word. But you have to be careful on who you are choosing to be your mentor, to pour into your life. Just because, I'm going to tell you right now, just because someone is of age, right? Because mothering, it's not about the age, it's about experience. You can choose someone who's older and you're like, oh, they have so much experience, they have so much life, but what experience? And what kind of life did they lead? Just because they're older, that doesn't give you the right to be a mentor or a spiritual mother, as they say. And I wanted to touch on that because I'm like, you have to be so careful as to who is pouring into you. My thing is this: you get to choose. This is the only time, okay, we don't get to choose our birth parents, right? We didn't get to choose that. But this is a time where we get to choose, and we need to choose wisely. People should not be coming to, oh, I'm their spiritual mother, I'm your spiritual. No, 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 no. We choose. Okay. So I wanted to make that very clear because I know, like, for me, I have talked to certain people and they'll be quick to throw that term like, oh, you're my spiritual daughter. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. I don't even know you. And I didn't choose you. And wait a minute. Like, I was like, I don't even know your background. Like, I need to do background checks. Okay. Where you come from? I don't know. I was like, but this is one thing I'm always like, be careful with who you are choosing to pour into you. Because we choose who our mentors are. And while, yes, I believe that it is great in the community, I feel like everywhere you go, you need a mentor. Now, even myself, when I, changing, well, not changing, but adding to my career, I was like, I need a mentor in this because I want to watch, I want to see how you, and doesn't mean that's how you did it, I'm going to do it. But because I'm adding on, I want to see someone who has been in the game for a while. I'm like, okay, let me see how you operate. Let me see how you move. Let me see how you talk. Let me see what your day looks like, right? Because we need that teachings, right? But not everybody.
Right.
Not everybody. This is something that we possess, but we also know that we need to nurture, we need to grow in our training.
So let me ask you this I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you
for somebody that don't know, right? Because most young people, they don't know because they're just, they haven't been through much experience. So how do you pick your mentor? Like, how do you know if this is the right person to mentor you?
So a background check, number one. Like, and in all seriousness, because especially because we're living in a day and age where everything looks pretty on social media. I signed up. I did a mentorship. I signed up last year, actually, with a mentor, and it was a good year before I signed up with him because I needed to see what he was really like and what he was really about. Because everybody looked good on the internet. Okay. Everybody looked good. I mean, the pictures and the storytelling, like everything looks good. But my thing is, when you choose a mentor, depending, and especially in what areas, like we're talking spiritual, like, yes, how long have you been doing this thing? How long you've been walking on this road? And what have you done with your time? What are your ups and what were your downs? Like, because I'm gonna tell you right now, I get a little nervous when these leaders are perfect and they ain't had no sin and they had been married 100 years and they never had one fight. Come on.
Okay.
I'm scared. Then you can't mentor me. I need somebody that's been through something, right?
Okay.
So I feel like, number one, you want to make sure that they're legit. You want to make sure that they're living what it is that they're preaching. And I don't mean that just in a spiritual sense.
Like,
I mean
transparency, like you're saying, right?
Yes, exactly. But also, what have you been through? How can I learn from your mistakes? And I think of, and being able to mesh like with their spirit. I feel like, mine was, we have similar spirits.
Okay.
I can learn. Like, I'm like, oh, I can learn from you. I said, because there's things that I dabble in that I'm just like, oh, is that right? And then when I hear like that person, like there's something in my ear that just wakes
Mhm.
up. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, you speaking my language. And now
Mhm.
I'm not fully versed in this. I'm learning this new language, but you speaking it very fluently. So
Okay.
let me give ear to that, you know. So I think that yes, we absolutely want to know what they have been through and what gives them the right to pour into our life. And that's really, and it really is a personal decision. That's why I said people can't step into your life saying, you're my mentee, I'm your spiritual, this, that, the other. They can't do that. They don't get to choose that. We are the ones who choose who is
Mhm.
going to speak and pour into our life. So, but that was one thing I was like, I use the word mentor. I don't like that other stuff. You know, everybody to each their own. I'm not saying don't do it, but to each their own, right? All right. So, she talks about um how um we need to recover motherhood because it's like a lost thing on the earth. And she says how we need to be intentional about training our daughters. um we need to be, and she's saying this, you know, both physical and spiritual. But she talks about nurturing and says to nurture involves the act of nursing. It means to suckle or nourish. It also means to further the development of, and that's what I really wanted to be on, to further the development of. So as a Deborah who operates in her motherhood, it is our job to further the development of, whether it's an individual or whether it's something that we are called to. She says, God designed the human nature to be nurtured by a mother and a father. She talks about how the dismantling of family unit was the beginning of the decline of morality in our nation, which we absolutely have seen. And she says nurturing is essential for the health of humanity. So, in making that statement, if we are not nurturing humanity, that means humanity is not healthy, which can lead to a lot of the things that we are absolutely seeing on this earth today.
Mhm.
The death tolls, the abuse tolls, um, all the, you know, we were talking about, you know, the latest at the bank that was a whole nother takedown. And I'm just like, all of these shootings, and we talked about that last week, like how are we almost at 30 school shootings and from this year we only 4 months in, like this is crazy, you know. And now it's happening at a bank, you know. Like we're
Yeah.
seeing it everywhere. We're seeing it in malls, we're seeing, remember the movie theaters, like we're seeing it everywhere. Where is this coming from? Where is this coming from? What is the lack? Okay. So, and again, it's not just that, it's the hatred that we're seeing, it's the racism that we're seeing. There is so much that we are seeing here on this earth that shows there is a lack of nurturing. There is a lack of proper development
Mhm.
of a person, of an initiative. Okay. She says, she talks about, it said many in this generation suffer from an unnurtured nature. Nature can be defined as the innate or essential qualities or character of a person. So she's saying that this generation growing up is suffering from an unnurtured character, from unnurtured like qualities of a person. They are not being nurtured, they're not being properly developed, okay, because there's no pouring into,
Mhm.
um or proper pouring into. Excuse me. And she said nature also includes the general psychological characteristics, feelings, and behavioral traits of mankind, regarded as shared by all humans. All right. She says nurture can be defined as the care and attention given to someone or something that is growing or developing. So, what are we growing? What are we developing? Because that's what we're called to do. We are called to lay hands, and this is a special call for women. Like, I have, like, this is a special call for women. We have been called to nurture. And you see that, you know, even in marriages with husband and wife, you know, when you have a family unit, you know, I know growing up, my father well, my mother was a disciplinarian, but if it got to my dad, oh Lord, it's like all she had to do, I'm gonna tell your father, and I'm telling you, we was straight for days. She would never have to have another dog. She would never have another dog. And even like growing up, like my father, he did not, as a male, he did not believe in hitting a child. That was like that type of rearing was done by a woman. It was not done by the male because they look at the male as being strong and hurting. It's like, I can hurt you as opposed to teach you, that's going to come from your other side or whatever. But we see that in households, mothers, we have like a more nurturing side, and I shared, I believe it was last week, when I was feeling a certain kind of way when my daughter's feelings weren't being tended to appropriately, at the school when she got hurt. And I said, in that moment, she needed someone to care for her. She needed to feel that someone cared that she got hurt, and she didn't get that. I was like, that is a natural thing. And we are seeing less and less of it. We're seeing that you good, get up. Like that's
Right.
like that's what we're living. We're living in the UBI, and but if everybody's seeing that, where is the nurturer? Where is the person who is stepping in to further develop? Because it requires all that. And we just read where it talks about that their nature is comprised of psychological characters and feelings and behavioral traits. So how are we, people are acting out, they're doing did you get hugged as a child? That's probably like, who didn't hug you? That's right. Who didn't hug you when you was a child? Who didn't tell you that they loved you? Because you see this, you see the lack of in adults and even in young adults. She also talks about how modern day Deborah is that we will be like teachers who nurture the next generation's creativity. Now, I like that because, that's all part of being a Deborah, is being creative. And using our creative juices and being pioneers and being visionaries. So if we're not tapping into that, how are we teaching the next generation to do so? If we're not tapping into it, we need to fully tap into our creativity, into being a visionary, to being pioneer, to birthing a new thing, so that we can show the next generation this is what I did, because they're gonna look at us and say, you did this. Okay, I'm going to take what you did. I'm going to go beyond. We need somebody to go beyond what we're doing. We need them to go beyond. And their beyond shouldn't be getting something started. We at least need to get the thing started. So whatever it is that we are being called to, it's time to develop it. It's time to nurture it. When we talk about rise, stand, and be established, that's what this is. What are we nurturing? What are we called to nurture? What is that thing that we have that we're supposed to be birthing and nurturing and loving and giving a voice to? He goes on to talk about how this is also like motherhood is a new expression of God in leadership. And which I absolutely love, because in the society that we live in, and we talked about this at one of the conferences that we did, that women can't lead, that we're too emotional. So which is why a lot of times men are chosen over women in leadership positions, because they feel that women, and this was just a study that was done, and they took a survey and it was all the statistics, and one of the main reasons why women weren't in leadership within business was because they feel women they are led by their emotions. But this woman here, Deborah, who was a judge, who was absolutely led by her emotions, because she saw village life and she was like, this is not how we're supposed to be living. And I don't know what Deborah's here have said, looked at this world and said, this is not how we're supposed to be living, because I know I have. Okay, I know I have. But it wasn't enough for her to say, we can't live like this no more. She had to do something. So she went before the Lord. And she's like, she's bringing the petition before the Lord. And it was a petition of the people of the world and what they were living in, the bondage, and they needed to be set free. And because she was connected, and because her feelings led her to movement, She absolutely led the people to freedom. So, I think, and we'll get into the whole story about how they went to war and how they won, and but my thing is, it was her feelings that led her to do something. Your feelings are trying to lead you to do something. Okay, when we talked earlier, and I said there's something that you may see on the news or something you may hear on the telephone talking to your friend or something you saw happen at work or when you were at the store and something, and it stirs up something on the inside of you that like, no, I can't stand for this, or this can't go on, this can't happen again. That thing right there, that's being led by your spirit. It's being led, and but a feeling, you had to have that feeling. Like I tell y'all quick, my blood will start boiling. I'm like, oh, I start getting hyped. That's why I be trying to reel it in. I'm moving on because Sharia, there was a point that you talked about when we were doing our little pre-show. On page 32, because I'm on 32, and I was gonna kind of go into this. She's all right. So on page 32, she talks about how Deborah was a godly leader who was led by inspiration. She said, I believe that her servant leadership, and we talked about this last week, that her leadership position was, I'm serving you. This is not about you serving me. This is not about you giving me money. This is not about you paying my way, making me, feel like I'm some type of celebrity. This is about me investing in you. That's how she led people. She wasn't looking for a return in her investment. She was looking to take what God had given her, and she was putting it to the people. So he said, I believe her servant leadership style convinced her followers to extend themselves beyond their own vision. She was a visionary, okay? And as she saw things and she poured into others and she led them by being a servant to them, by helping them, it helped them see beyond their vision, because these people were absolutely, we could say they were enslaved. They were in captivity. So when you living in a box, you don't see nothing but that box. You may wonder, you may think, sometimes you may not even think what's on the other side. But her leadership style, her being a mother and developing and nurturing and caring and also being led by her feelings, help them see a greater vision for themselves. Like they absolutely saw like freedom can be. Okay, and for us, maybe it's not freedom. For us, maybe it's something else. It could be, oh, I really can quit my job and work from home. I only said that because me and Kathy were talking about it. We were at the Zoom. I was like, girls, every work from home job I'm gonna send you, right? These are things. And that's just me coming in agreement with her, because she wants to do it. Like, yeah, absolutely, girl. I was like, maybe it's that. Maybe it is starting the business, or maybe it is, applying for a higher, a management position, whatever it be. Like, well, Sharia was starting the Airbnb. That she had properties now she has Airbnbs as well. And so, but her leadership style enabled them to see past their own hindering vision, because if you ain't got vision, you got a hindrance. That's what you got. You got jail, right? If you can't see a better future, you got jail. That's all you got. That's all you can see is jail. That's all you can see is bars. All right. And I like that she says on here that God wanted his people to be exposed to a motherly and feminine influence, because we talked about she should have, in those times, women don't have those type of visits. In today's times, like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Kamala, they give her hell because she's vice president, she a woman, okay? So my thing is that this was God's choice, right? So when I had underlined that God wanted his people to be exposed to a motherly and feminine influence, and you can't do nothing about it. That's all I wanted to say. I was like, he chose, he put in position, and your feelings of a woman can't lead, a woman, it don't matter. It don't matter. And I love that. I was like, I had to underline that one.
But we are leading, right?
We
But
are.
it's just their narrative of, because we're behind. If it's like you said, when you see a uprising man or a man in a
Yes.
certain stature, it's that woman behind her that's pushing them, taking care of everything else,
Yes.
but we're leading
Exactly.
from behind.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh. I've read this woman's story and she was talking about how, I guess her husband got like this really huge promotion at work, and that he worked really, really hard for. And she was like, this is not to take away from my husband. She was like, because he did do work to get there, but I also did work to get him there. She said, me having to leave my career so that I could be a full-time mom, sitting here, taking care of the kids so that he could be more dedicated to his work, me having to show up to all the softball games. And that, like, she went on this rant, like, this is not to take away from him, but
Because you feel like you're not seen though. You feel like you're not being heard.
Yes.
Like, oh, look at his accolades.
Yes.
Like, no.
Yes, like, he did not get there by himself.
Right.
Like, I was handling all this business so he could be free to handle that one job. But I was handling the 100 jobs on the side, right? So no, you're absolutely right. And I love that, because my thing is this is to especially the women who are going for a scene, because again, we're talking about coming on the scene to be seen, SEEN, right? It don't matter who's against it. You are appointed. Like, that's it. It is sealed. You cannot, everybody cannot like it, and it does not matter. Because when God said it is time for this world to be exposed to a motherly feminine influence, don't say no when he come knocking on your door. Like, don't say no. Don't say no when he come knocking on your door. But I really love that, because that, to me, that just seals the deal. I'm like, God seals the deal. You can have your personal opinions about it. You can like me, not like me, say I can't do this. But when God calls me, you just gotta take it to him. You got just take it up with him. Don't give me a hard time. Don't give me a hard time. Don't bring nothing on yourself. Oh God. So and it says that this didn't mean that she was weaker or less authoritative as a woman, as a feminine influence. It simply means that her leadership was delivered in a different way. She led by inspiration. She inspired these people. And I'm like, I look at myself and I have these talks, because I do have, all my kids, they all, have their down days, and my one daughter, she does struggle a lot with like self-esteem, because there is this huge comparison, everybody goes through it, that comparison trap, and I always have to talk her out of it. And when we have our chats, I'm constantly trying to get her to see what I see her as now, but also what I see her becoming, So I'm about like, well, you just stop. Like, this is I'm tired, or ignoring it. I don't ignore nothing. We're not throwing nothing under the rug. We're going to expose everything and give a light to everything. So when I talk with her, I inspire her. I bring words of inspiration that will help her see past her own vision to a greater vision. When she talks about, let me see, that modern day Deborahs will be gentle in disposition when dealing with broken, bruised, and battered, but they will have fists of steel when dealing with the enemies of God. We were talking about that, Sharia. And she says, so this is not about beating somebody when they're down, right? When you're helping and developing and you're loving and nurturing to someone. It says that she's gentle in disposition when dealing with the broken. And listen, we all on journeys to whole, okay? I was like, there's some type of whole, HOLE, and we trying to get to WHOLE, all right? I was like, so it says when dealing with the broken, bruised, and the battered, okay? It says, but she will have fists of steel when dealing with the enemies of God. In other words, I'm loving up on God's people. But when it comes to the enemy, and I'm not talking about people, but when it comes to the enemy, oh, I got a fist of steel. Like, I'm not putting up with your nonsense. I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. And she does go on to talk about what who those enemies are, because our eyes see people.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on 1 second. Let me see. I'm trying to see where we are because we're actually almost done this, and I think we're just going to finish up this portion, and then we'll leave the next chapter for the other one. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Did y'all hear that? That was my dog. My dog busted up in here. That's how I was like trying to. She just is coming. I'm like, I'm gonna need y'all to wait because I'm gonna need her to get out of here. She's a big one, and she be like, "Mom, you tied up too long. I need to come. Where you at?"
So you got 4 minutes.
Yes. I'm like, if she don't go, so and she just busted up in here again. So if y'all hear like walking
I heard her fall.
yeah, no, she is literally right here by my side, and she like ain't any moving me. I'm just gonna leave her be. I'm just gonna leave her be. She want to be in all of them study, but anyway, let's go on. He goes on. She goes on to compare um God as El Shaddai and compares it to women and what it means to be a woman. And she also talks about how it's only a woman who can actually deliver this, okay, because it is part of our essence. She goes on to talk about, let me see, she gives us an example of consistency of character, love for people, and sound judgment in her roles as prophet and judge. Through these nurturing attributes, she earned her influence. It was her motherly love and ability to empathize with others that gave her authority and influence with the rulers and other leaders in her sphere. So it wasn't about her being mean and nasty and, outspoken or ghetto. It wasn't any of that stuff, right? Because sometimes when we don't feel heard, it's like, well, let me talk, let me speak louder. Well,
Right.
let me make some ruckus, not make some noise. Let me make some ruckus, right? But it wasn't any of those things. It says that it was her motherly love and her ability to empathize with others that gave her authority and influence with the rulers and other leaders in her sphere. So we're not talking about people like that she's leading. We're talking about other rulers, other leaders. They looked at her at that and they admired her and they were influenced by her. Let me see.
Empathizing is a major everybody don't have that empathy.
Yes. And again, it brings me back to who didn't hug you? Who didn't love you? Who didn't? Because, we talked about this before. Like, what we see now, it is a direct correlation of what we went through in our childhood. And there are things that we got to heal from. Mm-hmm. We got to learn from, and people who lack that, that there's something to say of what happened in their childhood.
I see sometimes as some people that had a good childhood too, but they just can't empathize with other people. They're selfish. It's like empathy is like you can feel other people's pain. You can feel you can put yourself in their shoes.
To care enough, care enough. And you're absolutely right, because some people could just be like so egotistical or so selfish. Like, I really don't care. Like, I'm living my best life. Like, toodles.
Yeah.
Toodles. When she says, when she talks about El Shaddai, she says, when God rose up Deborah to be a judge, he was introducing us to another expression of leadership, a unique dimension of his attribute as El Shaddai. Mighty and powerful, but loving and nourishing. Okay, that's El Shaddai. And, she breaks down the word, but it means mighty and powerful, but loving and nourishing. And this anointing, in other words, this is set apart, because that's what that is. This is set apart and reserved solely for women. We are nurturers. All right. That's when he created our makeup as women. That was a part of it. Okay. if we have seen it be diminished, there is a reason why he is calling us back to it, calling us to reinstate it, okay, to bring it back to the earth. But I underlined that because I was like, that is something that can't be taken from us. We can abort it, we can abort it, but it's something that it can't be taken from us because that is part of our makeup. That is part of our makeup. And I thought that was so sweet because I'm like, for it to be said that this is solely reserved for women, that's just us. That's just, I was like, you, when you created us, you were like, I'm going to give you this special thing right here that can't nobody but a woman have. Like, and it's a special part of him. It's a special part of God, so we see him through ourselves. And I was like, so, and everything that we lead, whether it's our homes, and we say like in our homes, in our families, at our jobs, at our schools, in the government, in the community, wherever we're leading, in the church, there should absolutely be a God factor where people should see our God through our leadership capabilities. How we talk to people, people should see God. How we treat people, people should see God. Now, if we're on the other end and we're showing a whole nother face, like I remember, and I'm just gonna share this. This was I'm not gonna say it was a trauma because I would just like listen to each his own. But this could have been a serious, hurtful situation, where I was a part of a prayer group. And now for me, I grew up in a Hispanic church. It wasn't until I had children where I started taking them to church where they just spoke English. Um, and so my first language of the Lord is absolutely Spanish. I pray in Spanish. Um, I will pray in English, because of where I am. But we were actually having a prayer meeting, and the first thing was like, you could pray however, whatever your love language is, but Lord, da, da, da. And when I started praying and I started entering into a prayer in my worship, and I was speaking Spanish, um, somebody was offended and felt that was calling about the devil, and we can't just let every devil just speak this, that, the other, because she didn't understand what it is that I was saying, but I was speaking in a Hispanic, in Spanish language. And it's funny because, the way that she spoke to me was very hurtful. And people know me, like, I don't play around when it comes to the things of the Lord. Like, I really don't. Like, my feet may be slow to walk because sometimes I get in, I need a million confirmations, you know what I'm saying? But that's just my personal walk. And I'm trying to do better as a daughter. But anyway, but the Lord knows my heart. And I say this to everybody, the Lord knows your heart, and he knows how to speak to you. So when someone is speaking to you in a way that belittles you and is derogatory, that's not God. And then they try to say, well, that was the Holy Spirit. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. And that's why I say, like, you cannot. But because she was viewed as a spiritual mother, not my spiritual mother, because I did not appoint her. I did not choose her. I was not her mentee. But I remember hearing that, I was just like, no, like, I know my father, and he wouldn't speak to me that way. Like, even in the ways in which, if he was to speak to me in a way that was, if he was chastising me, whatever, that would not be his deliverance. That would not be
Right.
how he would deliver a message to me. And, so when I look at this, and what she's talking about, what our deliverance, everything that we do, people should see God. So if, I did grow up in a church that no matter how much you prayed, you just was never delivered enough. You could never be forgiven enough. So you were constantly begging for forgiveness, for things that you've done. And when that's not how that is, but that's what I did because that's what I was taught until I knew better. So when I knew better, I'm like, that's not how he talks. That's not how he talks to me. Like, and even if he has to reprimand me or correct me, that's still not how he talks to me. Like,
Yes, with love.
yes. He is loving, and caring, and he don't yell at me. he don't call me the devil. And I'm just like, when? I'm like, what? Because I spoke Spanish? What is that? I'm doing
just being ignorant.
Yes, yes, and that's what I mean. Like, it's so important to know our Father.
Hi, Lenora.
Hi, Lenora, because we know how he would speak to us. So I just want to say, I'm like, be careful with all these, you know what I mean, all the people that want to be talking about they thus saith the Lord. Because all I'm gonna say is the father will speak to his child before going to the cousin. Okay. And I mean, what I mean is he will absolutely speak to you first. Anything else should be confirmation, or even if it's or grabbing your attention. Like, I thought I heard something. Because you know, sometimes the Lord be saying something, we just trying to ignore it. You know what I mean? Like, but all I'm saying is he will speak to you direct. There is no middle person. The middle person was Jesus. That's it. There is nobody else. There ain't no pastor. There ain't no other type of leader who is the middleman for you to get to your father. It is you and your father. That is it. That is it. Jesus did it. That was all. We didn't celebrate that this week, didn't we? He did it. I was like, he did it all. All right. So, but I thought that was really big, that when he talks about how he brings his message, it really is like God, he nurtures us. You know, so everything that we do, every aspect of God is what we should be giving people. His love, the grace, the mercy, understanding, okay, not being so quick to throw stones at people, you know, not being so quick to, you know, put people on a cross, like, you know, like putting ourselves in their shoes, putting ourselves, like I said just in the beginning, we are quick to talk about women and having abortions and oh my God, it's so ungodly. We have aborted things that God has given us. We have absolutely done it. So before we throw the stone, let's take an internal look. So, but yeah, that's all that I have for this, for the mothering, Deborah as the mother. He is calling us to nurture. He is calling us to, you can't empathize. Sorry. Look, I wanted to read what Stacey's saying. You can't empathize when you don't have a heart for people. Exactly. And that's what Deborah, the mother, she had a heart for people. She had a heart for all the people. And she was like, okay, enough is enough. Like, I'm hearing their cries. Like, Lord, I need to make sure you're here. So she went to intercede. What we gonna do, God? Like, it's time. We got to get up out of here. What you need us to do? Like, what can we do? You know, she had a heart for other people, and that was Deborah, the mother. And because she had a heart for other people, she was able to lead. She was called to leadership because she had an interest in developing others. She was called to leadership because she cared. She was called to lead because she was in tune with her feelings and loving people right where they were, not the changed version, not the resurrected version, not the holy sanctified version. She loved people. She loved the messy people too. She loved them right where they. I loved them. She loved the mess. She wasn't a part of them, but she loved them in their messes as well. You know, so this is what he is calling. There is something that he especially gave us, and if we don't feel it, Lord, I need you to reinstate that. That's I need you to reinstate that in me. I know you gave me that when you created me. I know this is a part of my makeup. I don't feel that way. Whatever happened in life that has diminished that feeling, that has diminished that urge on the inside of me to nurture human nature, I need you to bring that back. I need you to bring that back. And even if it's not within us, we see in this world that there is a serious lack of nurturing, and we need to bring it back. That's what we're called to do. We're called to reinstate. So that means we stand and we take our position, but we also bring it with us. We also intercede. We bring it forth. We bring it forth through our prayers, through our action, through being it ourselves, being the example, showing the next generation. This is what motherhood looks like. This is what it means to pour into. This is what it means to develop something. Okay. This is what it means to care about something, to nurture something, to love something, to bring it forth. Right. So, But yeah, so the next page she just has prayers in here, to where it's a mother's prayer for the next generation, and that's it. And then we're going into chapter 4. So that's all that we have for tonight. Sharia, anything that you want to add, or anything you want to say that we talked about that just kind of like, oh, I want to mention this, like, you want to bring it back?
No, I just like the nurturing part, because I'm not going to start, so we want to get another different topic. But reading this book is just helping me develop more of my nurturing, because I feel like I'm a nurturer, but it's more of a, how can I say it, with a fist maybe. Because I wasn't nurtured with the softness, I guess, like the hug maybe. Not saying like it was like a bad thing, just that people do what they know or whatever. But I'm trying to develop that that soft nurturing touch, and not so much of a fist. I got the fist part, now I need the soft part.
Yes, that's right. That's right. I was like, and I understand the tough love, because I grew up on tough love. I know. I grew up on tough love. I just wanted a couple of the comments. He said, yes, bring it back, the nurturing and love and prayer. Yes, we absolutely need it. We need it in households. We need it everywhere. We need it in our government. Like, we need it from the top all the way down.
Yeah.
And exactly, Stacey, God is never rude. And that is, I'm telling you, God is not the reason why people don't serve him. People are the reason. The misrepresentation of who God is the reason why people don't want nothing to do with him. Because we represent him in the wrong ways. We represent that. So I'm like, everything we should do should absolutely point right back to him, but it should point back to who he is, how he loves. What is love? What is real love? Like, even this whole thing with nurturing, and this is not to say that, sometimes you lose your cool with your kids. And this is not that, because that happens, you mend that, I was like, as a parent, I know I've lost my cool, and I've had to tell my kids, I'm sorry. I was like, listen, I lost it. It's been a long day. Just give me a minute. I kind of got to get some things out of my system. I didn't mean to say this to you like that, because I want them to know as well, I am not too good to not have made a mistake. I am not too good to not have to apologize to my kids for something that I did that offended them, that hurt their feelings. I was like, that is healthy parenting, not the UBI. Like, just put a little bit of salt on it. UBI. No. That is not nurturing. So we are all learning. Like, we are all learning what it is to nurture, what is to aid in the development of, what it means to really teach and to really train in love and caring about psychological their psychological abilities, and even when it comes with their feelings, like all that stuff we have to keep in mind when we are training up this next generation. We can't say that we're raising a whole bunch of wimps. That's not true. Like, that is not true. But a lot of us have come from a tough love upbringing, and we're turning that around. We are turning that around, and we're showing the next generation, and they're going to even do it better than us. They're going to do it better than us. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Deborah Anointing. This was part 4. We will be back next week with part 5, and you'll be seeing the other ladies' faces. Thank you so much, Sharia, for logging in and being on here and tackling this with us as well. I always say, these are my girlfriends, and when we get together, we chop it up. Iron sharpens iron, and we always bounce off each other. And I always say, hey, listen, I want to share this with, like I always say, it's like, when you get something good, you got to share it. You want to share it with others, right? So this is me sharing my girlfriends with the others. So I hope you were able to take something out of tonight. If you missed any of the other episodes, you can check it out on Facebook. Just scroll down, you'll see the other videos. And if you're on our YouTube channel, just click on the lives, and you'll see all the episodes there. And with anything else, I guess we will see y'all next week. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.